Trent McDuffie for number 29, a fifth, a sixth, and a future third. Okay, that is not a meme post from a Rams fan because they do some of those do exist. I know one, so there's at least one, but that's what you got to send for a top five corner in the league that's 25 and a half years old. You know, ignore the fact that Sauce Gardner, who went for about 100 million more trade value than that. He's also 25 and a half. If you average out his year this year and last year, he's at a 74 PFF average compared to McDuffie being at a 79. It checks out because the Colts, they got that extra half a year of Sauce, so they had to trade way more because also the Colts could have had 32 instead of 29. That's a world of difference. The Colts, yeah, they could have had like the 15th pick if Daniel Jones just regressed to baseline play or continued finishing his season poorly, but obviously the waiting the half a year is just such a big darn deal that makes the world of difference here, where a better player potentially goes for way less. Because, that's just not Kansas City reeking of desperation. Surely that's appropriate value. This is so horrible of value for the Chiefs, I'm sorry to say. Not really. I love seeing the Chiefs suffer because I'm a man with some morals. But I just am baffled that this went through. This shows a wherewithal of theirs to some degree, in all honesty, because, the team was not that good this year before Mahomes got hurt. They were really just And, yeah, they made it to the Super Bowl and got flooded, the year before. So people don't really realize that they are also kind of last year, not in this year's sense where they're just like 500 type of team. I mean, like, they're like a fine playoff team, the year they fraudulently got to the Super Bowl and then just got embarrassed. So, it shows that they at least have some awareness that they weren't actually striking, on contention's door this year. That's smart. But also at the same time, like, do you really think that a team that hasn't really rebuilt anything of note recently, they're just going to all of a sudden, make good selections? Because that's the thing. It's one thing if you make good process in the draft and then it just doesn't work your way, but they're just kind of drafting erratically. Like that edge rusher that his name escapes me at this point, that was just like a random flyer they took on a guy that wasn't particularly notable. It wasn't a good process in the first place. So it's like we got all of our bad picks out the past several years. We're going back to drafting well now. It's not a fluke situation. I don't really understand that part for them. So hey, we'll replace Trent McDuffie with this first round pick who could be anything. He could even be Trent McDuffie. It's a little bit of a Family Guy. The boat is a boat, but the mystery box could also be a boat situation. Obviously it's a little more complicated than that because the money they are up against it, they've managed their money very poorly by chiefly giving a good but not great guard top five tackle money. That was very sus last year and it worked out very poorly for them. But I just don't understand this whatsoever for them, but I do understand this quite well for the Rams. You gave pennies on the dollar for a top five guy at his position, very valuable position, very young guy with his prime ahead of him, at a position that you needed most. It's not too complicated to understand the dynamics there for the Rams. This is one where, maybe you do your due diligence and send an offer like this that's, not really what it needs to be to every team, just see if any of them are dumb enough to do it. But this is one that, like, after you send it, you kind of feel a little bit of shame, honestly, I would feel. Like, we've all been in, fantasy leagues where you send an offer and you're like, oh man, if they, post the screenshots on that, that's gonna look bad for me because I look so thirsty sending out this terrible, offer. So clearly I would be embarrassed. But man, if that goes through though somehow, if they, accidentally click accept, man, do I reap the benefits. That's kind of how I look at this one, where I'm just like, guys, did you really think that, like, because you generally with trades, who sends the offer, right? Like the side that gets the worst deal, you can kind of see who's initiating and who's receiving. And in this case, it is just, I if the Chiefs sent this to the Rams and it took the Rams more than half a second to accept it, then maybe they looked in the fine print just to make sure there wasn't like oh, actually we're trading 3 future first, in the fine print. Maybe they did their due diligence there, but this is one where if they call you, you say yes before they can change their mind type of deal. And again, if you're the Rams, just send a ridiculous offer like this to any team, and just hope that they're dumb enough to. But my goodness, this is thirsty work if I've ever seen it on both sides. Thirsty for the Rams. There's no way you should have got this one through. So good for you, in all sincerity. But if you're the Chiefs, look yourself in the mirror over this one, bud. This is not what an NFL caliber team does. Even the Jets, again, the Jets, I don't think I need to say it, but the Jets, they got better return for Sauce by far than you guys just did on Trent. So this really tells you that the Chiefs dynasty is not just, in a bad spot. It is just getting, pooped on by other teams at this point, because everyone else is like, they got to be lining up. They're like, hey, I can get Prime Mahomes for like a 4th you figure. He's coming off that injury. We'll just highlight the fact that he's hurt. It's going to be easy pickings. Just take the whole team, rest of the league. Just send an embarrassing offer, and the Chiefs will be like, don't mind if I do. At this point, why not? Just send a crazy offer for whoever is left on the team. Talent, Creed Humphrey. Do you want a 3rd round pick for Creed Humphrey? He's a center. It doesn't matter too much. It's just, I cannot believe my eyes on this one. I am so embarrassed on behalf of the Chiefs, which is again not a common thing for me. I dislike that all of their players are gremlins. And, I dislike this from the Rams' perspective, too, because it steals shine for my Seahawks and, it makes Puka more likely to win the young Antonio Brown. So I don't like this. I would rather the Rams get the bad end, because the Chiefs, they weren't doing anything anyways. So they don't need to suffer more, so the Rams should have been the ones suffering here. That's kind of where I end up on it. So be sure to let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you're on YouTube, be sure to follow and rate 5 stars if you're on a podcast. So thank you for watching or listening at the very least. And be sure to be kind to yourself and others.